Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Welcome back to VALORANT News, and ahead of the third week of the main event, the big question of the day is with regard to the franchise ecosystem that Riot is looking to install next week. Instead of the 16 teams we were expecting to be in each region, there might be only 8 to 10. That means a lot of big name organizations in all regions are going to miss out on spots. Which ones could they potentially be? Very much enjoying your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Really upset the channel. Lots to dive into today. Very much intrigued to your perspective down below. Let's just crack straight on with things. Firstly, just this real quick, because we saw a couple of weeks ago now, maybe a week or so ago, that there was the talk that actually, well, Riot were not going to bring in a in-game replay system to the game. The article effectively said, we have no plan to do it at the present time. There was a lot of backlash from this, from the competitive scene, and also I think from, well, content creators in general that want to do cool stuff in a replay demo type viewer, like they have in Counter-Strike and other games, of course, for many years. And now Arno has now further followed up then and said that actually it's effectively coming, right? They can't give a guaranteed update, but they're working on it, right? So kind of an interesting dynamic here where they initially said when the game launched, like, yeah, we're working on this replay system. They said maybe a week or so ago, no, we're not doing it anymore. And now after the backlash, they've said, yeah, okay, we're working on it again. So that's kind of just one update on that situation. This also from Evil Geniuses, right? Foe, of course, was on their team for quite some time. He's now officially been released from the lineup. So yeah, thank you for everything he contributed to their Valorant team. Unforgettable experience, he says, but it's organizations like this, Evil Geniuses, right? Like a massive organization, no doubt, that have a decent Valorant team. Of course, they made it through into the main event, but haven't really done all that much since then. They're a solid squad, but not going to be anything spectacular. Are they going to be enough for Riot to consider them to be a partner team next year? On current evidence, probably not, right? But who knows how much money comes into play here, how much future investment into the league comes into play, because that was kind of a big talking point from Riot when the potential of it going franchise, kind of how League of Legends done was first discussed, was like, okay, we want to partner with organizations that are super investing in the future of our esports, which pretty much every organization right now that wants to be a partner is going to have to prove that over these coming months. Now, well, just quickly on Cloud9, Vanity says expect the unexpected. So, like, whenever people tweet this, there's usually something going on, even though often there just isn't, and they're just, copy and pasting it from each other. Zeppers said to following. But Cloud9 did actually do something. They bring in Mix once again as kind of the assistant coach of the lineups. That's kind of one change that, well, may help this team get slightly better, because lately they've been looking, of course, with Curry in. They looked pretty good a few days ago against OpTic, but still, they're going to need to get some W's on the board if they want to get a decent seed for the playoffs, where they still should be pretty much favored to qualify. Let's dive into this then. So a few weeks ago, we heard from George Gillis about the VALORANT partnership system. So it's not really a franchise ecosystem yet, but it's certainly going that way. The idea is that instead of franchising, where the teams, let's say in League of Legends, have to pay $10 million to enter, they effectively is the other way around. They are actually, a stipend goes the other way of apparently only in like the 6-figure range, which isn't much, but I'm pretty sure the teams don't have to pay anything in necessarily, like at least in the short term, right? But of course, Riot is expecting something in return. The idea is that these organizations will kind of support the ecosystem, like pay obviously all this money for the players and stuff, and help support in the ways that they possibly can. And in exchange, Riot will say, okay, look, you get to be part of our officially partnered league, where you can't get relegated or whatever, effectively a franchise model. Now, we've got more details on that yesterday from George Geddes, effectively describing the fact that there's actually going to be way less teams than we expected there to be. Now, he's asked Riot for a comment on this, but they haven't said anything yet, so they might just be kind of putting this out there, or sources might be putting it out there just to see the reaction from the community and the reaction from the teams themselves. And it might be kind of a classic Riot thing where they say, look, we're only going to have this many slots to make the teams really heavily compete for it, and do like, oh yeah, right, please, we'll do this to get a partner spot, and then all of a sudden they kind of open it up anyway. But still, this is a very small amount of teams. This, as the article describes, sources told .esports that the North American, Brazilian, and Latin American League will have 8 to 10 teams that will be directly invited to the league next year. The other 2 leagues based in Europe and Asia, so there effectively is an Americas League, a European League, and an Asian League, will have around the same number of slots according to one source. So we're not really sure yet exactly how this works in terms of, okay, 10 teams might be invited, do maybe another 6 teams qualify, which might be possible that other organizations can qualify even if they're not officially partnered. But you can imagine, like, as this kind of progresses more often, through the years, then probably that's not going to be the case for too much longer, even if that is the case going into next season. And also, if you've got to think about promotion and relegation, if you're a partner team, doesn't matter how bad you can't get relegated. So it would kind of be interesting to have 6 teams that qualify, let's say for stage 1, and then in stage 2, you then get relegation promotion for other teams that could potentially qualify, as we see here in this league, in this year's system. But those 10 partner teams wouldn't be able to get relegated because they've been selected by Riot, right? So it's really difficult to make that work across both elements. But yeah, apparently the stipend that goes the other way is going to be in the 6 figures. But that's probably not going to make too much difference really when the teams are paying massive salaries already, and some teams have operating expenses apparently in the 7 figures. according to sources. So probably the stipend going the other way isn't going to make too much difference. The article goes on to kind of talk about the LEC, the LCS, right, that have 10 spots available for teams. Each league offers the chance to qualify for the League World Championship. And yeah, just describing here the countries that are going to be involved in these particular leagues. But yeah, very much intrigued to your thoughts on this, right? Because the big question is, if there are only going to be 8 to 10, let's just say 10 spots for each of these leagues, then that means many organizations, many professional organizations are going to get cut from this system, right? As George Geller says, about 20 professional organizations and teams just in North America, and only maybe 6 of those might get a spot, right? That's the thing. You've got to think it's not just North America that's getting a spot, but it's also like Latin America, Brazil. That, let's say there's 10 teams, right? They might say 6 NA, maybe 1 or 2 from Latin America, 2 from Brazil. Like that might be what they decide to do. 7 NA is probably the maximum you're possibly going to get. And as as Com says, EG here, for 3 regions to be only 8 to 10 teams, that just does not feel right to have so few teams, right? And I think this is a discussion we had a little bit ago from Bodork, pretty much talking about the teams that could get in. And even out of these, this was a kind of theorizing a 16-team situation with 10 North American organizations and maybe 6 from kind of Latin America and South America. And he had MIBR, Loud, Furia, Crew, Fusion, and NIP, right? Which is a pretty good team of 6. It's really difficult to cut too many of these guys out of here, but you're certainly going to have to if Riot go ahead with what they're planning to do. And then these were the 10 teams from North America that he came up with. I think the OpTic, 100 Thieves, like Cloud9, LG, like there's even with 10 right here, like it feels like there's almost some others that could be added, but this might go down to 6. And if that's the case, which of these teams get cut, right? It's really tough to say. You would think that the teams with the big successes and the big investment would get in. I think that like TSM, of course, was a missing name from this list, and I feel like TSM on their current progression will probably get there because, of course, what they've done, what they're doing lately with content, but also what they've done in League of Legends and stuff like this, probably TSM will get a spot. T1, of course, was a big talking point yesterday. They're trying to build a Korean team. Will they get a spot in North America? Will they have to go to the Asian League? That's another question mark there. Of course, OpTic, they won Masters. They should be fine. 100 Thieves, the Guards, like so many big organizations. And on this evidence, a lot of these are going to have to miss out on a spot next season. And what does that mean for all their investment they've put in over these last couple of seasons into Valorant? That might be effectively getting flushed down the toilet after this season if they can't become a partner of Riot. Unless, of course, Riot decides to up the numbers, which could happen. But, TSM have said just a few weeks ago here that they're looking to become a part of Valorant's partnership model, which, of course, every organization is looking to do. And maybe Riot are just kind of saying this, or the sources that maybe came from internally, just to indicate to these teams that, like, you've got to fight hard to get one of these spots. Now, well, as I said, just real quick on TSM, Riot have been doing in Valorant NA, have been doing some content with Subrosa and TSM and some of these other teams. At least maybe that's a slight indication of what might be to come. But just look at this, right, from a couple of regions. These are the 12 teams right now in the main event. There's other organizations, though, the likes of T1, for example, just to name one organization. Version 1 is another great example of like big organizations that aren't part of these groups, like the likes of the Knights, right? They were here last time around. There's so many teams that want to get a spot, but it's probably not going to happen, right? And even out of these 12, let's say you've got to choose 6. Which 6 do you choose? I would go, okay, TSM, 100 Thieves, like cNed is a massive organization. They've done a lot in Valorant as well. Like OpTic have to be there. Cloud9 surely have to be there. And then you also got to think also about resources. Like LG has a lot of resources behind them. So do the Guards, like an NRG as well, right? So it's like, how do you mix and match this if you're only going to choose 6 teams? And I didn't even mention Sentinels, right? Like the biggest brand in Valorant. Surely you have to go with them, but like there's also questions, and of course they make good content, right? But there's also been questions about their management, right? And how much they've kind of dealt with, like whether they've let this Sentinels team and their team that should have been a mainstay kind of fall off the pecking order a little bit too much, maybe for Riot's liking. Who knows what they're going to do, right? So it's not even a guarantee the Sentinels get a spot or really any of these teams. I feel like OpTic should be a lock-in, but really outside of that, I actually don't know what direction they'll go. Like anything can happen. 100 Thieves have done a lot to invest as well in their team and their ecosystem over the last few months as well. So probably 100 Thieves should get in as well. Massive organization, of course. Didn't even talk about FaZe. Like if they have to go from 12 down to 6, that is incredibly hard to decide who's going to miss out and who's going to get in. And even if we look at Europe as well, just in Group A, it seems like OG London, they want to get involved. So some of these teams are certainly going to miss out as well. Very much intrigued to your perspective down below. Just want to talk then real quick. I mean, as George Geller says, it's possible that these details aren't final. They could potentially change, or they could just keep it at 10 anyway. So we'll see what they decide to do. But yeah, we've got games coming up this evening as well. Back again in the main event right here. This is kind of the round win percentage. And the Guards certainly need to step up their numbers, not just necessarily for qualifying here for the playoffs, but also just to prove to Riot maybe there's the Guard mean business in terms of, forming an actually competitive team in coming seasons as well. Now, these are the numbers just I thought was kind of interesting in terms of cast. So this is the percentage of rounds where a player gets a kill, they get an assist, they survive the round, or they get traded, i.e. the person that killed them then dies to one of their teammates. Anything in the like 75-80% range is pretty impressive. Ethan here at 89%, a Pro 2 as well, not too far behind. These are all pretty impressive numbers from these guys. But of course, these will change this evening and going into this weekend. These are the games for this weekend. Then, of course, we've got some big ones. Sentinels, OpTic, they play on Saturday. But I mean, yeah, tonight's games, it looks a bit strange because of my time zone. But yeah, the Guard play TSM tonight, as do LG versus EG. So big game, I think the first game, Guard TSM, massive one. Really looking forward to that one. These are the rest of the games on the weekend. Massively important, of course, at this point, certainly for seeding implications. If the Guard lose tonight, they're pretty much chalked because they'll be 0-3, and their map win record and their round win record will be pretty tragic. And this is what's going on in Europe. Team Liquid Guild, OG London versus G2. Like this first series especially is pretty much a banger, but very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit on the like button, tell us your YouTube gods, this is a good video, and I was like you should see it as well, and help grow the competitive Valorant community. Thank you guys as always, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.
Down too long.
Dead. Garage floor, ceiling. Garage floor, and A-Link. Garage floor, A-Link.
One enemy remaining.
There we go. Sheesh.